We have iCloud today, but before that, there was MobileMe, and before that, there was a service called .Mac. .Mac was one of those things that people over the age of 21 don't really remember. Same with MobileMe, and I'm here to talk about it. Before we get started here, thank you members for supporting the channel. I'd also like to add that I'll be moving the channel thing to the end of the videos starting mid-July. That's just how I go about writing these and recording these, and that's kind of how it landed. So if that makes you want to cancel, then do it now. So, .Mac, what is it? Well, it's an older Apple cloud service lasting from 2002 to 2008. 6 years in trials and tribulations for .Mac. And today we're going to be talking about its life and why it was replaced with MobileMe. To start with, we might as well talk about what was before .Mac. And this was iTools. iTools was the first cloud services offered by Apple, coming out in January of 2000. The services that came with iTools were the Mac.com email service, Homepage, which was a web page hosting service, iCard for online greeting cards, iDisk for cloud storage, iReview for website reviews, and KidSafe, a web filter. This was a Mac-only service, coming out on macOS 9 and being supported up until macOS 10.1.5. This was limited to macOS users, but as people do, they found loopholes to use it on older versions of macOS or on PCs. Apple soon fixed these oversights. The Mac.com emails were able to be received through any standard post office protocol email client, meaning Apple Mail and many others. iTools was innovative for sure, but it was then replaced by the wonderful topic of this video, being .Mac. .Mac replaced iTools in 2002, but why? Well, the @mac.com email kind of blew up. And because of this, Apple was scratching their heads like, well shoot, we can't afford this anymore. And then iDisk also blew up, and Apple was like, well shoot, we can't afford this either. Let's make people pay for these services. Apple made people pay, and while they were at it, they did some rebranding of the service. $100 minus a nickel got you Mac.com, Homepage, iCards, iDisk, Backup, and Virex. 4 of these were already in iTools. iReview was phased out in 2001 because nobody used it. The same thing happened to KidSafe. Side tangent here, KidSafe really reminds me of this mode in the Spider-Man Nintendo 64 and PlayStation 1 game, Kid Mode.
Kid Mode!
At least one person will remember that. Backup was a backup service that could be used over the internet or with backup CDs or DVDs. This was largely phased out with Time Machine. Check out that video if interested. Contrary to the Get It Mac commercials, .Mac did provide an antivirus to the user. This was Virex, published by McAfee. So this is actually just a re-recording of a part of the script, so I'm just gonna yap now until we make time. So yap 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 yap. Yap 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 yap. It was published originally by Micron, then turned into DataWatch, then was obtained by Dr. Solomon, and then it was obtained by McAfee. .Mac got version 7.2, and this later turned into McAfee Total Protection. Those @mac.com email addresses still work today too. Randy Ubelow still has one, and there's a good chance someone watching this video has one too. Now keep in mind this is all $100 a year. iTools, may I remind you, was free. For 3/4 of the same services, users now had to pay about 20 cents a day instead of $0.00 a day. This price also didn't stop inflating. A lot of users stopped using the service because of the cost. Imagine if iCloud were revamped tomorrow and you had to pay $100 a year to keep all your devices synced. I bet most people won't pay, or they will just use some other free service that is free, as I said, and allows syncing. Speaking of syncing, iSync was starting to become a thing at this time, and this is where you could start to make an argument that maybe the $100 a year was worth it. Granted, Apple devices at this time were the pro consumer laptops and desktops, plus the iPod. There was no iPhone to sync over Wi-Fi, or iPod to sync over Wi-Fi with, and tethering the iPod to the computer was good enough for most people because it's all they knew. However, iSync did work with some of the iTunes phones and other devices over Bluetooth. Those born yesterday may have never heard of this. Hell, it was before my time too, and I only know about it from a book. But the iTunes phone, or its real name, the Motorola Rocker E1, was a phone that had iTunes capabilities, and you guessed it, it synced a calendar and address book from .Mac to the phone. Now that's really just foreshadowing, but this service worked with a lot more than just the rocker. Many devices from Sony, Motorola, Nokia, and even some from BlackBerry, Samsung, and Palm also worked with the service. Now, .Mac did get better over time as well as pricier. Family memberships were about $179 a year. Some of these services did get storage boosts, but then the service was completely silent. Yes, it was online and working, but Apple, forgot about it? From 2002 to 2005, in the 3 years it was silent, Google had launched Gmail with a gigabyte of storage, and then Hotmail and Yahoo were like, shoot, we have competition too now. We better offer some better services. If only they would still do this today. .Mac responded too, by doing nothing, like keeping a small 15 megabytes of space for users, mind you, who are paying $100 a year, in 2004. But in 2005, after watching the competition fly past them, Apple bumped its own storage to 1 gigabyte, but 2 gigabytes for families. An extra gigabyte would cost $50 a year. .Mac groups were introduced to let people communicate and share work stuff. But Gmail launched with 1 gigabyte for free. $100 a year for 1 gigabyte, or your data being sold for 1 gigabyte. Take your pick. Apple didn't really keep a regularly planned schedule for updates with .Mac either, mostly combining updates with the iLife apps, more foreshadowing. iWeb, which was the first killed by Apple video I did on this channel, was deeply tied to .Mac, since that's how you got your web pages onto the internet. Although you could also export the web page to other services, go check out that video if you're so interested. Apple released the .Mac Gallery in 2007, with iLife 08, which combined apps of iLife and the web-based gallery. These apps were iPhoto, iMovie, and iWeb. Just to be nice, storage was getting somewhat cheaper. Apple dropped the price of storage, or really upped the storage people were paying for. Now it was 10 gigabytes for the start for singular plans, and 20 for families, with an extra 10 gigabytes for $50 a year. You're probably wondering if this was a Mac-only service, and it was for the most part. Much of this didn't work on PCs, since this was an Apple software. iDisk, however, could be accessed to Windows XP. But from what I've read, it seems like it was actually a mess to use. The explicit goals for .Mac were to get Mac users using it and syncing across all the devices. This goal, however, didn't last long, and with the launch of the iPhone in 2007, the ecosystem became larger and too complex for .Mac. Thus, MobileMe was launched in order to unify the whole system. I do have a MacBook with MobileMe running on it, but you will all soon find out that the launch and short life of MobileMe was never as smooth as it intended to be. And that wraps up today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Looks like that graphic I put in last week's episode works since the number increased some. Maybe we can get to a neutral response. Anyway, thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye.